So Disney's fundamental foundation lies in crafting the ideal legacy, and there's perhaps no greater franchise that exemplifies that than The Lion King.
What's on the menu? Here could be some it's Pumbaa.
Released in the wayward year of 1994 and developed for eons prior, it's widely considered to be one of the top dogs in all of animation. Visually, musically, narratively, emotionally, structurally, characteristically, it ticks all the right boxes. Even after Frozen stole its designation of highest grossing animated feature, it's still been regarded by many to be of higher quality and generally to be a cut above the rest of Disney animated canon and set a forthright example for the rest of the medium. Being a cornerstone of the ethereal Disney Renaissance period, it's considered to be Disney feature animation's first original story, a legacy that, despite ushering in other more original works of its ilk, still holds up as their strongest by far. Even in the context of the absolute megalodon its parent company is today, it illuminates many of animation's best qualities and continues to inspire artists to this very day. In a sense, it also highlights why we might not reach those same peaks in current year. Lion King spoke to a lot of balance in everything we do and how it carries our histories forward. The circle of life depends on everyone's mutual respect for each other and their environment, and in many ways, while straddling the border of a lawful alignment, the Walt Disney Company is probably not seen as a balanced entity, creatively speaking. Its more recent trend of dividing, conquering, and acquiring is ramped up full scale within the late 2000s and 2010s, a trend that has resulted in numerous reboots, spin-offs, and new adaptations that succeed quite variably. It's a principle that Disney Junior itself was built upon, albeit in a more subtle manner. Everything from AAA superhero epics to the massive continuations of acquired IPs to the live-action remakes of films from the animated canon, the atmosphere they've helped to create is as financially advantageous as it is ideologically contentious. This is not to say Disney Feature has not been busy innovating. In the CG era, they've been able to produce several new classics in their own right, without the help of their other heavyweight animation studio, Pixar. In fact, many inside and out of animation spheres would consider this time to be a new silver age of the studio. But even in the wake of those works emerging, the looming presence of one type of film continues to be a blight upon animation fan communities and beyond. The live-action adaptation. Their prevalence has been escalated with increasing certainty within the last 5 years or so, and they've been around for much longer than we think. The modern Disney remake is the most pervasive in thought and other media. The premise is simple. Take an existing entity in the Disney canon, updated with extensive CGI and big celebrities of our time, give it a Marvel movie budget, and profit. It started with less successful entities like Pete's Dragon or more complex characters like Maleficent, and extends onward directly onto the official princess line and the Renaissance films. With their repeat success, it was only a matter of time until The Lion King got its due. It's funny because for how progressively unhappy certain audiences were with the new movies, the reaction to The Lion King 2019, while being by far the most successful and highly anticipated of all the rest, has also experienced a more concretely negative backlash in the mainstream. Never before this time have we seen more viscerally rejecting an audience, opining before release, nor have we seen such an aggressively mixed critical reaction. It was the talk of the summer, and the hype surrounding would endure for months on end, but today, you don't often hear many talk about it from a reflective standpoint. One would have to wonder what spurred it on. Clearly, Disney was not adapting unloved or unappreciated works for very long, at least. If anything, the more well-known the property, the more money appreciated over time, and an adoring audience with so many memories with the Disney brand will not pass up an opportunity to bask in more media-bound nostalgia. So, why so hostile here? Well, not entirely hostile, but it seemed like there could have been as many die-hard fans and acknowledgement as there were hardcore detractors. Hell, if anything, there was more of a negative critical response left in the aftermath than praise. We rattled on for ages about how bland and forgettable it would be, and yet we're still making videos about it.
Wow. Dude, Pride rocks! This is literally my child.
This is so stupid.
From that point on, it felt like there was a bit of a tonal shift. Not exactly a full denouncement or a turning of the back to the Disney brand, but a touch more self-awareness. Clearly the genesis of this movie resonated quite explosively with many, just as the original did with many other viewers. I like to think it goes back to it being a fully original IP. If I'm not mistaken, literally every other live-action remake prior was a new spin, a continuation, or a full-on reboot of an old Disney animated film, the majority of which were adaptations of books and plays and many other things. For the high risk the original filmmakers took in crafting it, Lion King paid out in the highest reward they could ever accrue. They gained the newer, found respect of the audience. Where so much flavor and passion was felt in the original film was recontextualized and muddled in this new work. And it shows itself much more strongly because unlike the other films, which have been party to reinvention loads of times before, Lion King has stood on its own previously. It was never considered to be remixed. It's thought of as one of the most perfect, most immaculate animated films ever. So even when recreating this film shot for shot, beat for beat, there's a lot that gets lost in translation due to the creative vision of Jon Favreau. There's nothing else to compare it to soften the blow if you mess up, but the franchise also stands to lose a lot more if it does stand as bad. The project itself arguably flies in the face of the original film's message, too. Balance is a key trait of which Disney has a Cheshire Cat's definition. To pure economists, they're shining as a new empire of stability and fortuity, and to staunch creatives, they're crumbling as a fetid, rotten husk of what it once was. Even in the midst of a global pandemic, which arguably flipped those two in opposite directions, the balance of such extremes keeps us curious and keeps us interested. Part of what makes the Lion King's adaptation announcement so wild was because there was perceived to be no other successor in sight. To the general public, despite being at the center of such massive marketing pushes, the characters had yet to be utilized in TV or film for a hot minute. The new film was announced to celebrate the movie's 25th anniversary, but believe it or not, there was a project that ended the year it came out and was announced around its 20th birthday. It's a smaller scale production made for the silver screen, in a section of the company many would be quick to overlook. Though if you asked around at the same time and got some takes on its aim, you'd probably come up with a summation that describes a much more traditional balance that would stack up to its legacy. It does not utilize hyper-realistic CG or a star-studded cast list, in most cases anyway. All it really needed was the prospect of a brand new beginning and the power of the roar.